mostly me.
Cool. All right. We don't have to wait for people to jump in because this will be archived. So we can go ahead and get started. Guys, we want to take a second to say hello to everyone. We want to do a couple of videos, a couple of live streams to go over a couple of themes that we want people to know because we have our in-school tournament coming up here. And we have lots of students who are going to be doing this tournament who this is going to be their first experience in the tournament setting. So we want to make sure that we're trying to give everyone a heads up of what this is going to be like. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about sportsmanship, and we're also going to be talking about etiquette. And the point again of this is to kind of give not only the students but also the parents some things that they can use to prepare their kids for this tournament.
We plan on going into some of this stuff during class, like during our mat chats at the end of class. But during class, we're going to focus a little bit more on the actual rules of the match and how to do the matches themselves. This is the periphery, the things around the actual martial arts competition.
And we have an entire separate video on the rules of our tournaments in our academy. You can find that video on Facebook or on YouTube, as always. So you can feel free to check that out. The rules themselves, though, are really, really simple. So, of course, a submission is going to be a win. We will have a referee there. It is going to be Professor Nate, and he's going to be making sure that everyone's staying safe. However, we do also have our points, and the point system is super easy. Okay, so for those of you who have done this before, you already know how it works. I'll just go through it from top to bottom. However, we do always go over this entire thing with every division when we do the in-school tournament. So that way, all the kids can see it up front, what the rules will be. So for the points, you get 2 points for a takedown, 2 points for a sweep, 3 points for passing the guard, 4 points for getting to the mount, 2 points for knee on belly, 4 points for back mount without hooks, 4 points for back mount with hooks, and then 4 points for back mount with a body triangle. So yeah, you can watch the video about the rules and all that stuff, guys. We won't go too much into that.
And we keep track of that live up on this TV here. So you'll see what opponent has how many points. You'll see the time left. If the time expires without a submission, the person with the most points wins. If there is a submission, it doesn't matter what the points are.
So we kind of wanted to talk a little bit about some broader themes today. So specifically, we're going to talk about sportsmanship and etiquette. But first, we often tell this story about at our old school that we taught at. We organized a very successful tournament there, and we had almost 100-some competitors in this tournament, and it was very highly successful, and it was an awesome event. However, unfortunately, we would come to find out that after this tournament concluded, some of the students who participated in this tournament ended up quitting. And the reasons that they quit were because they didn't win, they got demoralized, and they felt like they were kind of beaten down because they lost. And again, that kind of made them sad, and so they quit. So when Seth and I opened our academy, we had to think of a way like, how do we motivate students to, even through a loss and defeat, how do they want to keep being motivated and keep going? So that's when we came up with the win-or-learn mentality.
Yeah, I mean, life is about dealing with losses. I mean, most people are not going to be winners out there, and certainly our tournament is going to be the same way. If you've ever been to them, there's a first, second, and third place per division, and that's it. Nobody else gets medals. Now, this time we do have a little trinket to hand out, but that's mostly just kind of a commemorative thing. The only awards that are handed out are to the first, second, and third place winners. Now, that being said, I want to go into one more thing about the rules. The divisions will either be round robin or will be double elimination, which means everybody should get more than one match. So if you lose, make sure you don't leave right away. Now, that means two things. That means don't leave the competition area because you will probably have another match and you might have even medaled. And the second thing, don't give up on the whole thing. If you don't win, it's just a sign that you have more growing to do. There's always going to be someone better than you. There's always going to be someone worse than you. And it's up to you to focus on yourself and improve where you need improvement.
And because we do round robin, that means that every student is going to every competitor in each division. Because we do it that way, there's going to be a lot of matches in each division, which is good, and that's what we strive for, so that the kids can get a lot of experience and a lot of matches in. It's a big bummer if you go to a tournament and you lose the first match, and then you're done, and then you go home and you've paid $100 to lose a match. That's a bummer. So we don't like to run our tournaments like that.
Speaking of payments, Ours tournaments are always free,
Of course.
with the exception of late registration. That being said, make sure that you make it by the late registration period, or else it's like $10. I think we decided on, just to help motivate people to get in early. Because right now we're formulating the brackets. Okay, so we have a list of everyone that's joined. We're separating people by age, by skill level, by size, so that everyone has a fair matchup and has some chance to win at least.
Yes. So if you haven't registered yet, make sure you do so. But yeah, when it comes to the matches, the students are going to get a lot of matches. So we're very happy about that. And they are going to be paired up with like skill and like weight and sized students, because that's only fair. However, when it comes down to it, we see two sides of the spectrum, right? We see kids who win every single match in their division. And of course, they're going to be on the top of the world because they've beaten everybody, whether they won by points or submission. And then there's the other side of the coin, where we have a student who loses every single match in their division. Sometimes they lose by small margins. Sometimes they lose by bigger margins. But no matter what, we want to make sure that we are supporting both sides of that. If a kid is successful, we want to encourage that. We want to be proud for them. And if a student was not able to win, then we want to make sure that we're still trying to build them up so that they can learn from those experiences. What we've noticed is when students lose, one of the first things that, especially with younger students, one of the first things that happen are tears. And whether that's as soon as the match ends, if they know that they lost, they'll often start crying, and that's to be expected. There's nothing wrong with that.
And that can be adult competitors and kid competitors.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're a parent and your kid's going out there, they lose and they start to cry, don't expect them not to. There's a lot of emotions going on. But at the same time, you should be prepared to encourage them to continue on, because a lot of people have that fight or flight response, and their first response is going to be, I lost, I'm done, I can't do this, get me out of here. That's the wrong attitude. You have to try to push through. You never know. They might be able to win that next match. Maybe their next opponent is just the perfect amount of difference in ability or difference in size that your kid can overcome. So you always want to encourage and push them forward as much as you can without being obstinate about it and overbearing about it.
So yeah, we have our ways that we deal with tears in our academy, and there's no right or wrong way. So we want to remember, like Coach was saying, you want to motivate and try to push the student, because one of the coolest things about the sport that we teach is you learn a lot about yourself from doing something like this. It's not a team sport, so that means you're not relying on anybody else except for you, and that's really, really powerful, and it builds a lot of character. And that's something that we want to make sure that our students are aware of. When you lose out there or when you win out there, you are learning something about yourself. How do you handle a loss? How do you handle winning? Do you handle winning gracefully? That's another thing that we want to talk about on the subject of sportsmanship, is how to win and how to lose. So when it comes to winning, this one should hopefully be self-explanatory. We don't want to boast. We don't want to brag. We don't want to make other people feel uncomfortable that we've won, right? So if I beat somebody, I want them to feel just as happy for me as I do for myself.
This, like Coach mentioned, this is not a team sport, but in a way, we are a team. This is an in-school tournament, so everyone around you is part of the same family, the Spectrum Martial Arts family, and so they're fighting their hardest. Yes, they're being a warrior. They're your opponent, but they're not your enemy. And there's a huge distinction to be made there. So at the end of the day, they are your comrade. They do the same things you do every week. They come to the same place. They train with the same people every week. So you need to make sure that if you defeat them, you feel grateful to them for having given you a good match and having been brave enough to get out there. Or if they defeat you, you need to be grateful for having had the opportunity to go against someone and to learn some of your weaknesses that need improvement. This is a very difficult thing for kids to understand, especially if they've never been met with this kind of opposition before. Competition like this can be kind of scary because it's not just practice anymore. It is someone has a goal and you're in the way of that goal. So we try to make sure that people understand the difference between an opponent and an enemy. All right, and especially at in-school tournaments like ours, that's a huge, huge difference.
And we mentioned the difference between opponents and enemies because a lot of times when we go to out-of-school tournaments, you can tell who has the mindset of these are my enemies. They're the people who, if they win, they're going to be cheering and pumped. And, if they hurt some other kid and they hurt their opponent, they don't care. They're good. They're happy still. And we don't want to motivate that sort of mentality.
That being said, you can be excited and
Of
be
course.
happy, but just make sure that you ensure your opponent's safety. Check with them after the match, handshake. Following the referee's instructions, whether you win or you lose.
So there are some really basic ways that we promote and enforce sportsmanship in our tournaments. The first is just the simple handshake. So we always want to make sure that the students are handshaking their referee, because that is probably the most important person on the mat aside from themselves, because the referee is there to keep the students safe. Regardless of what happens, the referee is on your child's side. They're not someone who you should get upset at because you feel like they made the wrong call. If you feel like they made the wrong call, that's the way things go sometimes. But remember, they are there for your child's safety. So the handshake is a really simple gesture. You handshake the ref, and then you handshake your opponent. You handshake them at the start of the match, and you give them a handshake at the end of the match. So this is just a good way to cap it off of, in the beginning, you're both showing that you're ready to compete. At the end, you're both thanking each other for the opportunity that you had to compete against them. Yeah. That's huge.
And a handshake is the minimum. I mean, you can pull them in for a hug if you know that person's particularly on the subject of the referee. The ref's call is final in the case of our in-house tournaments. A lot of people sometimes have a difference of opinion, but we have a lot of people coming into this tournament. We're on a schedule, and safety is our number one priority. So the referee might make a call, might say, hey, this kid, his arm was fully extended. I'm going to call the match. He tapped. And the kid might say, oh, well, I didn't feel anything at all. I was fine. Well, it doesn't really matter. In the ref's opinion, that was the end of the match. And so that can be a difficult thing to deal with sometimes too, especially if you legitimately were not even close to losing. You might have lost that match depending on the referee's call.
Yeah, early stoppage is never fun.
Yeah, but
it happens.
You're going to have to learn to deal with it. Rough calls happen. Coach Ray and I will be judging, and Nate will be able to ref and get a little bit of a closer look. So his call is worth more than our call in this case.
100%. And let's remember, guys, if you feel like he made a wrong call or you feel like he made the wrong decision, that's okay. You're allowed to feel that. But don't make that sentiment known out loud while the match is still going on, or make a scene about it. Feel free to come and talk to us or talk to Professor Nate about it after the match is concluded. But you're not going to change his mind because he's a referee. He's made the call, and that's final. We don't reverse calls. And remember, he's a jiu-jitsu black belt. So if you think he made a wrong call, then
I hope you have some knowledge.
Sure, yeah, I hope you have something to back that up with, right? So if you know more about the call that he made than he does himself, then, feel free to share that knowledge.
Speaking of etiquette outside of the mat while the match is going on, parents, we really encourage you guys to sit on the mat. You can even sit right behind your kids. The kids are going to be out on the periphery of the mat, so you can sit right behind them so that you can talk to them between matches or before matches. Don't encourage your student to move away from the mat or to go outside to get food in between matches or something like that. Stay inside the house or the academy in this case. And another thing, it's not some type of solemn affair. We do want you guys to be exuberant and to cheer your kid on, to yell out things you think they should be able to do. This is not class. In class, we encourage you guys not to coach because we have our job to do. But out there, Coach Ray and I, our lips are zipped. Like, we can't say anything. So it's up to you guys to help out your student. All right. So we're gonna have an opportunity next to the judges table. There's gonna be seating for parents if you want to come up and sit right next to us, so you can have a front row seat to your kid's match. You can sit there and you can give encouragement from there and help them out there. So, quick tip: listen to what the coaches say during class. Pay attention during class, and you're going to be actually a really excellent resource for your kids during the matches.
Definitely, guys. So if you want to prepare your student or your child a little bit for this, a great option is to just go over what we've been doing in class with them, whether that's writing down our curriculum or going on and watching the videos. And having them practice either by themselves or have them practice with you. That's a great way to prepare your child for this sort of thing. This will be the first time that we have a really, really young division, so we're going to actually be allowing 4-year-olds to compete. This will be the first time that we allow that. Guys, we don't really expect many crazy submissions to happen in that because we don't teach submissions to 4-year-olds. That's more so going to be just a fun
exhibition match.
Yeah, it's just supposed to be fun at that age. And that's true for all of the matches in the entire tournament, okay? So for 6 and up, for 6 years old and up, submissions are going to be a thing. For 4 and 5-year-olds, they're not going to be submitting each other, okay? Essentially what it's going to come down to is who hugs who first and who falls to the ground first, and that's going to be pretty much the match, okay?
Oh, wow, I don't know. We got some killers in those 4 and 5-year-old classes.
That's true, okay? But, just remember, you don't want to put too much stress or pressure on your child as they're competing, especially at that age, because it's just supposed to be fun. That's it.
This entire thing should be a fun event. There are very low stakes here. You're not going to lose anything if you lose, and all you're getting if you win is a little commemorative medal. We want kids to understand that their training is going somewhere and that they're learning something, and they are now capable of something that they were not capable of before they started here. A lot of other places that you might find training at, they're not going to put their kids through the ropes like this. And so we really want you to encourage your kid to try their hardest, but not build it up like it's some enormous event that their whole self-worth is built on.
Yeah, and while we teach martial arts, and martial arts is a self-defense, this is considered sport. What we're doing here with this tournament is sport. So this is a game. That's all it is. They're not trying to hurt each other. They're not trying to save their lives. They're not trying to fight for their life. Nothing like this. So it's important to remember that the students, when they're out there competing, they're having fun. That's what we want them to do. That's what we're aiming for. If your child or yourself, if you're uncomfortable and you feel like you don't want to compete, Seth and I believe that everyone should compete at least once. And the reason for that is because it's such an amazing experience and you learn so much from it, right? So just one competition could be the equivalent of an entire month of training just because you learn so much stuff from competing about yourself, about your peers, and about what you're capable of doing. It's huge.
Yeah, huge sense of motivation comes from tasting victory or tasting defeat. When you get beaten by that one kid in your class, you're like, wow, I never knew he was so tough. I need to learn how to get out of X thing that he did to me. That is a huge boon to your self motivation.
And we're going to do some more of these live streams, guys, because we want to go over some more of these topics. Like, today it was just about sportsmanship and etiquette and understanding how you should act when you're there and what we expect from our students and our parents. But another topic that we might want to cover in the future is the competitive mindset and understanding how to flip the switch from I'm in training mode to now I am in competitive mode, because those are two very distinct modes. And some people, that comes very naturally to them. Some people absolutely 100% know it is competition time. I am going whole hog.
It's go time.
And then there are other people who you could put them in the middle of a war and they'll be like, what's happening?
What's going on? Should I go over there?
Is it time to do something? Right? So we want to build that urgency. We want to teach our kids how to understand, oh man, it is go time. I'm going hard. I'm in it to win it. Because again, this is a sport that we're practicing. So it's no different as football or baseball or basketball or soccer or any other competitive sport that kids play. There's an objective, you're trying to win, and you're using your athleticism and your technique to get you to there. So again, we'll cover all of that in a later video. If you guys have any questions, as always, please feel free to reach out to us. If you wanna get registered, guys, make sure you do it before the cutoff date. If you're unable to compete for whatever reason, if you're uncomfortable with it, or you can't compete for some other reason, please come and talk to us. That way we can sit down and make sure that you're good to go on all of our rosters.
We'd rather hear from you that you don't feel comfortable competing than hear nothing at all.
Yeah.
So don't feel ashamed to come up to us and say, hey, we just started a couple months ago. We don't feel like Johnny's able to do it this time. We're completely fine with that. We just want another reason why, because we really want to encourage all of our students to feel comfortable with this kind of thing. We want to train winners. We want to train people who learn from defeat as well.
100%. So that's about wraps it up. If you guys do have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to help you out. And we'll see you guys on the mat.
All right. Cool. Have a good one, guys.
Bye.